Mage Itemization. So let's first separate mages into two categories, okay? We first have our mana, like mages that need mana. This is your first and most important classification for a mage, okay? Now, your second classification is mages that don't need mana. This is going to become really, really important in a second. I'm not going to explain why this classification is immediately super important. At face value, it just means that mages that need mana have to go a mana item. And mages that don't need mana don't need to go a mana item. That's what it seems like. But it becomes a lot more complicated than that. Let's start with mages that need mana. Well, first, they need to buy a mana item. What are your options? So our options are, we have first BFT, Seraphs, Roa, Ludens, and Malignants. And 6, and I'm going to put a star next to this one, and this is Actualizer, okay? Let's go item by item and talk about what these items do and what champions build them, okay? First, we have Rod of Ages. I'm going to make an assertion about Rod of Ages, and that's that 5 champs want this, need to want a level, and I'm going to make a second assertion. This is over-purchased. This item is weaker than you think it is. There are too many champions that buy Rod of Ages. The reason why Rod of Ages is only good on some champions is because of how broken the level is, right? Think about it like this. If Rod of Ages was a niche item, how overpowered would Rod of Ages have to be on Kassadin for it to be viable on 80 champions, right? For it to be viable on the general mage class, it would be batshit overpowered on Kassadin and Rise and people that spike at level 16. My issue with Rod of Ages is that there are a lot of champions who I think buy Rod of Ages but simply don't need it. Champions like Cassiopeia, Anivia, I think there are games when you can circumvent going Rod of Ages, especially when you're behind, because you're itemizing very defensively. This gives you a ton of health, and it doesn't do it, like the level doesn't do anything for Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia doesn't care about points in her W later in the game. That's not real. Next, we have Seraphs. I'm going to go over this one next because this is your tier item, right? This is an obvious point, right? Strong scaling, weaker early. Why? Because you have to stack it and you have to invest 400 gold in a tier early in your laning phase. How important or how bad is it to buy 400 gold? The answer is it's not that bad bot lane and it's really bad mid lane. For most mages mid lane, a solo kill will happen in about a 100 HP disparity. Meaning if I kill you, I usually won because I hit you with one more spell than you hit me with. If I'm Orianna versus Syndra, I'm never solo killing you and I'm Syndra and I'm 700 HP, right? I'm usually at 200, 100 HP. Investing in a tier ruins that disparity. It increases how much you must outplay your opponent and means that if you take even trades, you will always lose because you invested 400 gold in nothing. It is the same thing with buying a Cole. So, theoretically, Seraphs is better in lanes where you can be greedy, right? Because we're weaker earlier. We have to be allowed to scale. We need that freedom to not be pigeonholed into being strong early. We can't be doing this shit if our bot laner is playing Draven and the enemy and our jungler is planning on split mapping. And we need to be strong at level 3. You know what I mean? We need to support the fact that my jungler is going to be a psychopath to support the fact that we have a Draven, right? There are considerations about the game that needs to be made if you want to build an item like Seraphs. The second part is that it gives you a shield. So it's obviously better when you want a shield. Well, when do you want a shield, right? Like this is complicated. Not good if enemy will kill you anyways. If there is a Zed on the enemy team, right? I promise you that if you just have Seraphs, no other HP item, and you're packing Flash Teleport, the Zed will kill you through your Seraph shield, and it will not matter. The same thing is true with a Fizz, the same thing is true with an Ahri. It is the same if you were to take Bone Plating in lane, and that is why I don't take Bone Plating. If you want to do this, and itemize in a way that is defensive, you are much better off either going 2 or 3 health items, So Seraph's, Liandry's Cosmic Drive, or just going Exhaust in the first place, which is 35% less damage on the enemy. 35%, I think. Maybe 30. So Seraph's obviously gives you a shield. So it's good if that shield gives you value, and not good if the enemy will kill you anyways, right? This becomes increasingly complicated. This usually happens against champions that are dive champs but low damage. Think of dive champions but low damage as things like Nocturne or Jarvan. They have really strong dive, but to compensate for it, Riot gives them lower damage numbers because it's too easy for them to get onto you. So if you build a Seraph's against Nocturne, you'll usually live when he dives on you. So those are considerations that are important. Next, we have Malignants. Only good if you want ultimate CDR. What champions actually want ultimate CDR? It's like Lux, Kassadin. There's really not many. There's not many others. Why does Lux want ultimate CDR? She's unique because she buys Malignants to get breakpoints such that she can ult every wave. Kassadin wants it because he likes to press ultimate. There are a lot of champions that build Malignants that have no reason to. Not good on Hwei. I saw a Hwei build this yesterday. It's really not good on Xerath that much anymore. Kassadin likes it for mana a lot. It makes sense, but there's several other mana items, right? What about Ahri? It's good on Ahri because she wants ultimate CDR. It's not good on, ready for this one? Karma. It's really bad on Karma. When Karma was popular mid and bot lane, everybody was going Malignants on her. Seraph's was a better item on Karma in almost every game. And people were buying Malignants. And it sucked. It was ballsack. It was terrible. Is it? Well, think about Karma. Karma likes to use every single one of her spells. Malignants gives me 15 ability haste. BFT gives me 20. Seraph's gives me 25. So I'm circumventing 10 ability haste and a little bit of ability power to be buying an item that gives me cooldown reduction on my ultimate, which, by the way, already gets reduced when I hit my other spells. And it does more damage. I'm archetyping as Karma into strictly higher damage instead of ability haste. I cannot think of a more OP champion in the game than Karma with ability haste. She wants it bad. We're going to go ultimate ability haste item on her? Doesn't really make sense. You need to have so much of your power budget invested into your ultimate, right? Next, we have Ludens. I apologize if this is like kind of hard because it's close together. Is there a way to increase line spacing on here? I actually don't know. That looks annoying. Okay. BFT. I'm going to leave this one for last. Ludens. Worst stat profile. Why does Ludens have the worst stat profile? Well, they all give you mana. Most champions don't care about how much mana it is because it gives you enough, right? You get 600 from almost all these. You get more from Roa. You get more from Seraphs. It's actually not that big of a deal. If you're a mana champ, you care. And if you're a normal control mage like Syndra or Orianna, you don't give a fuck because 600 is plenty. You have mana flow band as well. The reason why it has the worst stat profile is because it gives you 100 ability power and 10 ability haste. But all the other items give you more ability haste. And that's a really big deal. On your first item, you want ability haste really bad because trades, think about it like this. If I'm playing Syndra mid lane and my E is a longer cooldown than Orianna's W, I can trade less often than Orianna can. Not building CDR items exacerbates how long or short your trade windows are, right? It's even more of a big deal in top lane. Think about Jax's E, right? Let's say Jax E had a lower cooldown than Gragas E. Jax would go in, taking losing trade against the Gragas, who would press E on him. Then he would have his E back up first, the Jax, and he would go back in on the Gragas and take a winning trade. How's that conversion on ability haste into percent CD? It depends on the time that you buy it and what your runes are. So it's complicated. There's an ability haste calculator that you can look up, though. It's complicated, though, because it depends on whether or not you take Legend Haste and how many Legend Haste stacks you have and whether or not you take Ability Haste Shard in your stats, so we won't get into that. But this has the worst stat profile by far. It has a strong passive, good burst. Luden's burst passive can do like 150 damage. How much does BFT do? Well, it does 60 damage, but it has no cooldown, can be applied on multiple people, and gives you 4% ability power. So it has a good passive, and it's a lot easier to use because it's just one-time use, gives you good burst. So it's really good on champions that just want to one-shot you, right? So good on one-shotters. Not constant poke champs. Who's a one-shotter? Xerath. Syndra can use this item really well. Lux can sometimes use this item really well, right? You do not build against tanky comps. Why? Because burst isn't what kills tanks. You need constant spells to kill tanks. So you do not want to build Ludens on almost every champ in the game against tanks. Let's say I'm playing Xerath, and the enemy team picks a lot of tanks. My first most built item on Xerath first would be Ludens, because I have a champion with really good burst. I could use the passive on cooldown really effectively to poke the enemy out. Now, I don't poke so constantly. Typically on Xerath, I'll walk up, press Q, walk away for 10 seconds, then poke them again. Right, I don't have constant poke windows. Champions that have more consistent poke windows are like, honestly, Hwei. His QQ, his EW, all are on really short cooldowns. But if the enemy team was to itemize in a tanky way, such that my burst can't get through them, I am forced to itemize at a different item. That item would be BFT, because BFT will give me 20 ability haste. So let's talk about BFT now. It has the second best stat profile. So this is really important. It is the most generic item of the list. Why is this the case? Seraphs requires you to want it gives you a tier, which needs to scale, right? Because you're itemizing 400 gold into nothing, just mana. Then you have Ludens, which has a bad stat profile, so champions that want CDR are screwed here. Rod of Ages is super heavily indexed into the level. Malignance is only good if you want ability CDR. So the second most generic item here is Ludens, and the most generic item is BFT because it gives you a good blend. It gives you 20 CDR and 80 ability power. No champion even Vladimir would be happy building this, right? Vladimir doesn't, but even Vladimir would be happy building this. It is the most generic item of the list because it has strong mixed stats, right? Strong stats. Gives you strong stats. You get 4% AP per burning target. This is so important. I think people underestimate how much this actually does. When you get 4% AP per burning target, let's say that I have 800 ability power, right? And someone's burning. 1% of 800 is 8. So I get 30 ability power while per target that's burning, right? 30 ability power is 500 gold worth. That 30 AP will do more than pretty much any of the passives on these items. Bro, when do you have 800 AP? At the end of the game. At the end of the game, you'll have 800 AP. It scales infinitely better, this item, because of the 4% AP passive than something like Luden's. It's an Infernal Drake. Exactly, yeah. How is rushing Lost Chapter and going something bursty / damage heavy before completing the mana item? Reasonable. It is reasonable. We'll talk about that in a sec. So, this item has the most generic stat profile. You get 4% AP for burning target. Passive does good damage, but it's less than Luden's, right? Now, my assertion is because of the 4% AP passive, this item is almost, emphasis on the almost, strictly better than Luden's. My reason for thinking that it's strictly better than Luden's is because of the fact that this 4% AP passive basically closes the gap between the AP that Luden's provides and BFT provides, and BFT gives you more CDR. And this is just an easier passive to use because it applies on multiple champions, has no more cooldown. It's better inside of fights because Luden's will proc once and then be on CD, whereas you'll get constant BFT procs the entire time. It synergizes well with Cosmic Drive and enables you to get high movement speed. Like, to me, I think BFT is just a stronger item. So I would argue that, like, there's like 5 champs in the game that want Luden's, and then almost all of the mages just want BFT. Like, almost all of your standard control mages, Orianna, Syndra, Hwei. Think of a standard control mage, they just want BFT. Obviously, there's champions that are fairly unique, and they might want something else, in which case, they'll itemize it at something else, right? But your generic champion, just your standard control mage that has no unique considerations, just wants BFT. Our last item that we have here is Actualizer. And this item is really unique because I think it is the most misunderstood item in the game. And I'm going to be the first person to say here, I don't know how this works. I don't know. I'm convinced that this item is really strong. The reason why is that, like, typically thought of as only good with mana builds, right? The issue is that literally, like, this is not true. Because such a small part of the passive is put into the part that is mana. When you use, so the way Actualizer passive works is you get, I think, 15% bonus damage, and then you get an additional percentage bonus damage based on how much mana you have, right? So you'll do somewhere between 20 to 30% bonus damage on your spells for 8 seconds when you pop it. Then there's a second part, which is the important part, which is 30% reduced cooldowns while Actualizer is up. Holy shit, that part is broken. Because that part doesn't scale with mana. You can just use that shit immediately. Now, the issue with Actualizer is that it, one, builds out of Lost Chapter, right? So, like, that's interesting, because it builds out a Lost Chapter, which is an OP component. But then the hard part about it is, it gives you less mana than Lost Chapter, because you lose the Lost Chapter passive. When you combine it, you lose the Lost Chapter passive. So this item, I'm convinced, on a champion like Syndra, might actually be your best first item. Is Actualizer both a consistency item and burst? It seems both stats count towards that. It's weird because it doesn't give you that much mana, but you don't even need mana to make use of the item. The broken part of the item is that it, first of all, 15% bonus damage on your combo is disgusting. If you get this level like 6, or okay, let's say you're Syndra in lane, right? You get it level 9 on time. You will one-shot most mages with Actualizer active and be able to get your second Q off in your one rotation. That's insane. I'm convinced that this item is sleeper OP on certain champions. Now, sadly, I don't think Hwei can rush this item very effectively at all because Hwei needs mana. And this item doesn't really give you mana. It gives you 300 mana. Like, this is tough. But there are champions that need mana on their first recall. So Syndra, for instance, right? She needs a Sapphire Crystal or a Lost Chapter on her first recall. Then when she stacks her mana flow band and she has her splinters giving her mana for the rest of the game, she doesn't give a shit. So she can just atomize Lost Chapter, combine that shit into an Actualizer, and then she's fine. So I think there's insanely niche champions that can just build Actualizer. The cooldown on the active is 1 minute, right? Yes, it is. But you don't fight more than 1 minute, like, very often, ever. The breakpoint for fights is about 90 seconds. Every 90 seconds, there's usually a fight that you need to be ready for. Hello, what up, Stormcaller? So this is the first consideration, is mana items. Right? So you need to pick a mana item if your champion needs mana. Next, we have mages that don't need mana, right? Mana items are a waste on them. And we have two choices. First item path, right, that you can do on mages that don't need mana. First of all, let's come up with some examples of mages that don't need mana, because I think this is confusing for people, right? What mage doesn't need mana? Well, Vladimir literally doesn't have mana. So we can start there. Vladimir does not need mana, right? Aurora doesn't need mana because of how cheap and effective it is for her to use spells. Champions that can use Presence of Mind don't really need mana. Kennen, that's another good example. Kennen doesn't need mana, right? Somewhat Swain. Swain usually doesn't need a mana item. That's also true. If he was to itemize into Presence of Mind and Mana Flow Band, he doesn't really need mana. Diana, can include Diana on the list. A lot of these, will be mage, assassin hybrids. We'll come up with a lot of them because, and we're going to talk about this in a sec, there's a reason why Riot does that. There is a reason why Riot does that. So mana items are a waste on them. Okay? So don't build them. LOL. Don't do it. Don't do it. Why would you build them? What about Vlad Actualizer? We're going to get to this in a second because Actualizer is not a mana item. Brand jungle. Brand doesn't need mana either. You can go Rylot. Brand is a great example, right? Brand is an example of a champion that will very rarely itemize into a mana item, BFT, even though he doesn't need mana. In exchange, Brand will just not take any mana runes whatsoever. Right? A lot of champions have mana refunds in their kit. Zyra has a mana refund in her kit. It's usually niche champions that Riot said, well, you're kind of weak, so we're just going to make it so you don't need mana items. You know what I mean? So this is crazy. You have two options when you are a mage that, or I'm going to say there's like three, and we can come up with some niche examples that fall in the middle. Your first itemization option is Bruiser. This option is typically like Riftmaker. It's going to be Bloodletters. It's going to be Liandry's. Haunting guys items, right? So you'll start with this. You'll start with your bruisery items. What champions want these? Think of Rumble. Think of Vlad might want this. Aurora might want this. Swain might want this, right? A lot of our champions here might want this. They might want those bruisery. Zyra does not have a mana refund, Evan. She has a seed cooldown refund. Zyra doesn't. That's true. But she also has basically no mana cost because her W is free. Her main mechanic doesn't cost mana. Lilia? Lilia's a jungler. It's kind of cheating. In lane, I think Lilia does need mana. So, Bruiser. That's our first item class. Second one, and this is the most important one, is Magic Pen. This enables assassins, right? So, our items, or our characters here that might do it are Akali. We'll have a Silas. Vladimir can also do it. Kassadin might do it, right? Complicated. But champions that don't need mana and just want to itemize into like Magic Pen-esque items can just do this. Ignore the Kassadin part, but I swear. Okay, so this is like Storm Surge, Shadow Flame, Sork Boots, right? And you'll usually see all of these items built together. You'll see Void a lot. You'll see an early Rab, early defensive item. Early defensive item would be like Zhonya's or Banshee's Veil. And the reason why is mostly because they've itemized so much into damage. So they'll just itemize into 3 of these damage items. And they go, okay, I don't need more damage to kill people. CDR doesn't help me too much because I'm already stuck in the enemy's face after I've killed someone. Okay, so I'm just going to buy a Zhonya's or a Banshee's Veil so that after I kill someone, I can just stay alive. And so they'll just itemize that way, right? But it's enabled by the fact that they are able to buy so much Magic Pen early and hit their breakpoints extremely fast. Now, our third option is burn builds. So even if you are a champion that doesn't need mana, you might opt to itemize into something like Liandry's, BFT, and Bloodletters. Why is Bloodletters a burn item? Because this synergizes OP with New Rune. This is OP as shit because the New Rune procs it almost instantly. And so you can go Bloodletters and give your team almost 100% magic penetration. Or sorry, give your team 30% magic penetration almost instantly, right? So you can do burn builds on a lot of these champions and proc your shit like very, very fast. One of the best Akalis in North America is Savior, and he'll just rush Liandry's against Scion. Because, well, what is he supposed to do? Okay, so he could rush a Riftmaker. Okay, but this item does percent magic pen, or it does percent health damage and gives him HP and gives him the same thing Riftmaker does where he gets bonus damage while he's in combat. And he doesn't really want to build that much HP after, so he'll just build Liandry's, right? So you can go burn build on a lot of these champions. You can just do it on Brand. You can do it on Zyra. Champions that don't even need mana, you just go burn because it's viable, right? Because it's not archetyping into, okay, I'm buying so much mana here. You're never going to buy a Seraph's or a Roa. You don't need to. They don't make use of those stats. But they are really OP with burns, and so that's a consideration. Some champions just are so OP with burns that becomes its own build path. Now for Magic Pen, right? This is the important part. So if we think about a champion like Hwei, right? There is a massive difference between building Magic Pen and not building Magic Pen in your combos damage, right? So like Magic Pen is the most effective way to one-shot someone. at the expense of CDR. Importantly, none of the magic pen items give you cooldown reduction. So that's why there's two builds that exist for Vladimir. Vladimir will either itemize into magic penetration so he can one-shot you, or he'll itemize into a bruiser CDR build if he wants to play that style. And it changes the entire way that Vladimir plays the game. Either Vladimir's bursting and diving you with magic pen build, or he's playing a slower team fight with bruiser build and trying to get off constant W's and shit, right? Really important. Crypt Bloom. Crypt Bloom's your third item, and it does give you CDR, but it does it at the expense of magic pen. So it's a trade-off, right? Just got another practice tool. Apparently activating Axe Laser after using Hwei ult still applies the damage increase to the damage. Interesting. Wait, that is really weird. I didn't know that. So, this is the most effective way to one-shot someone, right? Magic resistance grows as the game goes on. I.e., amount of pen needed to bring someone to 0 MR increases. So as the game continues, I need more penetration to get you to 0 magic resistance and do true damage to you. And you might be like, well, why is that important? Why do I need to do true damage to you? And the answer is, well, if I leave you on 20 magic resistance, one, I'm probably not killing you because you have 20 magic resistance. And two, because resistances work the way they do, if you have 100 magic resistance, right? Your first 100 magic resistance will reduce more damage than your next 100, right? It has diminishing returns. And so as you get closer to 0, the more effective those magic resistance points are for the enemy. No, it's fully linear. Sort of. Okay, hold on. We'll talk about that in a sec. Okay, so the amount that you need to bring someone to 0, how do percent pen and flat pen interact? Which one is subtracted first? I actually don't know the answer to this. I'm pretty confident that it's percent pen gets subtracted first. But I also don't think it's... I think it works like this, right? So you take 80, and let's say I have... so you'd have 42, which is full flat pen, right? Plus, let's say you have 40%. I think the way that this works is just 42, and then you would take 0.4 times 80, right? So you would do this... And then I think it just ends up being 80. Like, basically the max amount that you can subtract someone from is 80, I believe. TF's most common build is Rod of Ages, Lichbane, RFC. I think that's a total mistake. I don't know why you would ever do that on Twisted Fate. It doesn't make sense, right? I thought it would be the way around. You reduce flat first. I'm pretty confident it's not, but we can confirm that. If someone can confirm that, I've been assuming the entire time that it works like this. I'm pretty confident it does. Okay. So, magic resistance grows as the game goes on. The amount of pen needed to bring someone to 0 increases, right? The fact that a magic pen builder can get magic penetration as their first 2 items, right? So their first 2 items plus boots occurs around 20 minutes, right? Typically, people get MR after this. So your average bruiser will get magic resistance on their 3rd item, right? Your average bruiser, let's say you're Renekton, I'm going to itemize for my lane first. So I'm going to rush whatever fucking Renektons rush these days. I'm going to rush Eclipse. And then my second item, I'm rushing Black Cleaver or something like this, right? Like that's usually what they do. They'll itemize Eclipse, Black Cleaver. And then for their 3rd item, then maybe they'll get Hex Drinker, right? Or maybe they'll get something towards Death's Dance. But typically, people will start to itemize towards resistances after their 2nd item. So on their 3rd item, they start to itemize resistances. Getting your magic pen in before they get resistances is super broken. Is fucking insane. And this is why assassins right at 20 minutes are OP. Echo will one-shot you right at 20 minutes because nobody in the game has magic resistance. And he will get to his Shadow Flame Spike at 20 minutes, right? OP. So the idea that they can just itemize this because they don't need to build a mana item is insane. Almost all AP assassins in the game don't need mana items. it is a huge deal that they don't need mana items to get this magic pen as fast as possible, right? So we start off with this principle, which is people need to pick a route that their champion is going. Either we are in the mana bucket, and we're going to pick a mana item first, or we're not in the mana bucket, right? And then we're going to be building some type of these three build paths, right? And of course, you might be a champion that needs mana, and then maybe you go a burn build as well. I haven't really itemized this out into builds yet, so we'll get into that in a sec. So after we do the first item, or for non-mana users, core items, now we have to make another decision. Oh yeah, it's just like this, okay. So after we do this, right, now we have a lot more decisions to make. But your first item is, of course, like extremely important because it's the first item you get in every game. If you buy the wrong item, it's a big deal because you're going to get that item every game. Sometimes you're not going to get to third item in some games, right? So like you need to make sure that you do this really, really effectively. So after we do the first item, we now need to decide the rest of the build. So think about what mages need in their final build, okay? 3 things. Rabadons, right? This is necessary. We will always have. You will always have a Rabadons in your final build. There is so few exceptions, it's not even worth considering. Then we have percent pen items, right? Regardless of whether or not you're going a flat pen build and building Shadow Flame and Storm Surge, you need a flat pen item. So these are Bloodletters, Crypt, and Void, okay? So you need to have these items in your build. So there's 2 of your slots already, right? This is essential. And for Darkseal, until last item, this will also be an item slot for you. So those 3 of your slots right there. So for most champions, what we're fighting over is what the rest of the item slots are. Nobody is going to contest that on every mage in the game, a Rabadons will be in your build. A percent pen item will be in your build. People, this is a little bit more contestable than the percent pen item, but there will always be a percent pen item in your build. Now, let's start there, okay? So let's start with the mana mages, right? So first, mana, I'll make a new one actually. So mana mages, we will start with mana item, okay? And now we have 2 paths. So we have 2 paths. Number 1 is mana item into, more complicated, but Storm Surge, Shadow Flame, percent pen, Rab, right? This is max DPS pen build, right? You have no CDR here. This is incredibly important to note. There's no CDR on this build, right? Sometimes this is acceptable because you just need to one-shot people. Imagine a game where you're playing against a Zed, right? I get 1 shot to hit my spell on the Zed, and if I don't hit that spell, I'm dead. I'm not getting another one. I might as well itemize percent pen, right? Or sorry, flat pen into Zed, because I need to one-shot him or he one-shots me. Now, of course, there's other champions in the game. You need to find a game where it's all squishy one-shot targets for a build like this to be viable, which is a lot more common in solo queue than you would think. I do this in like 30% of games. This is your first build path, right? Just full pen. We're just going to go full pen. We're going to itemize like that through and through. Your more common, and this is going to be like balanced, right? I'll title them balanced, right? And this is flat pen. Your balanced build path is always going to be a mana item. Then after your mana item, we have considerations. So it's going to go one of 2 directions. It's either going to go into CDR item, or it's going to go into Shadow Flame. And then it's going to be either CDR item / Shadow Flame, whichever you didn't buy, or double CDR. It's pretty common. Okay, let me explain this one. So when you buy your mana item, okay? And you make a consideration, the enemy is too tanky. I cannot kill them in one combo. You go, okay, well, let me think about this. I'm playing Hwei bot lane, right? So I buy my mana item first. And then I go, all right, CDR would be better into their team. Maybe they have a Maokai. All right, I need CDR to kill the Maokai. But right now my focus is on laning against the Jinx. And so I'm going to buy Shadow Flame second, even though it's bad against their team. It's good for my matchup. Or you're playing mid lane, and you're going to be side laning against an Orianna as a Syndra. So you'll buy a Shadow Flame second so you can win your side lane. Typically, CDR items are going to be better inside of team fights because they help you weave in more spells. And Shadow Flame is, or any pen item, is going to be better inside of side lane because it's just, okay, I kill you in one combo, you have no counterplay. So you can choose to itemize into Shadow Flame second and then opt in for a CDR item third if you really want to. If you really want to have that kill threat on your opponent. Your other option is to just buy a CDR item here and then buy another CDR item on your third slot, whichever, or buy a Shadow Flame, whichever you didn't buy. You can just go double CDR. So let's break that down. So back over to here. Things that we need to have in their final build. And then we have CDR items. We have 3 options here for the most part. No, there's 4. Nah, there's 5, but it's kind of 5. You have Horizon Focus. You have Cosmic Drive. You have Proto Belt. You have Crypt Bloom. And you have Bloodletters. There are others, like, but not really. Like, you have Mandate, but like, this isn't really a CDR item. Like, this is weird. So I'm not going to talk about it because it's not normal. Like, it's clearly for like 5 niche champions, this can be a CDR item, but you're typically not choosing from them. Do you think Orianna is better as a constant tier mana poker or full burst, or is it dependent? Orianna's CDR builds suck. And the reason why is Orianna is too short range to play a lot of the time when she needs to go CDR. Whereas Syndra can, right? Like, Syndra can build CDR and be fine because she hits you from far away. So Orianna's going to do a lot better in games where she can one-shot people with her ultimate and get a big wombo. She's very effective in those games. But modern Orianna is more of a burst champion, and she really struggles in games where she's forced to go CDR. She's really not that good there. Okay, so we have these 5 options for CDR items. First, Horizon Focus. This is the most generic item, okay? This item just gives you CDR and ability power. Could not be more generic than that. It is the definition of a CDR item, right? Most generic, requires 0 hands and skill. If you are bad at the game, buy Horizon Focus. Your next item is movement speed. This item gets exponentially better. Exponentially better the higher elo you are. Because you will learn how to use movement speed, and this item translates into dodge spells, has OP stats, at the cost of being the most expensive, right? And it is more defensive than Horizon, right? Why is it more defensive than Horizon? Because you're buying movement speed, which allows you to dodge spells, which is inherently kind of defensive. It's also 3,000 gold. It gives you health, which you've itemized into, which Horizon doesn't. Horizon just gives you damage. Now, one thing to note about Horizon, it does have the passive that gives vision, right? Like, this matters a little bit, but who cares? Look, like, I get that it gives you vision when you hit someone with a spell, but bro, that's not like, this is not a real consideration when buying the item. Like, it's not a real fucking... So if I'm not at a level to utilize Cosmic Drive's movement speed, should I opt for Horizon Focus on Hwei? That can be huge. You can buy a blue trinket. You should not be buying Horizon just because you're like, we need to bank on me hitting a spell so that I can get vision. right? I feel like that's a bit crazy. I feel like that's a bit crazy. And I would say if you're not at the level to utilize Cosmic Drive, you should still buy Cosmic Drive so that you get to the level to utilize Cosmic Drive. When you are not at the highest level, your goal should be to learn the game, not to win. If you wanted to maximize your win potential in low elo, you would go Horizon Focus. But your goal when you're low elo should not be to maximize your win potential. It should be to maximize learning. You should be comfortable losing if you got better. Period. Next, we have Proto Belt. Overrated, LOL. Okay, why? Wait, why did it do that? This is overrated. Gives the least damage, right? It has a dash. Okay. Now, these are the three most important parts of this. It's overrated, and I'll get to that in a second, but it has the least damage of these. Horizon has the most because it gives you the 10% damage steroid. Cosmic Drive has the second most because it just has 75 ability power. This one has 60 or 65. I think it's 60. There's a big issue with Proto Belt and Horizon that people don't talk about, which is some champions can't get into angles to use the CDR. So think about Vayne as an auto attacker. If Vayne always had angles to be hitting the opponent, Vayne would be the best champion in the game. If we translate that into abilities, if we as a mage were constantly using our spells and hitting them, we would do insane DPS. But most of the time, we can't hit the target we want to. We can't be in range. Having additional movement speed and a dash actually increases your damage by giving you opportunities where you can hit more spells. Right? Gives you opportunities where you can hit more spells. This is a very important thing. Horizon Focus, the vision can sometimes give you more opportunities to hit more spells, but it won't get you into position to do that. That is why I built Cosmic, because it enables me to move in a way that would otherwise be criminal, because I can dodge more spells, I can reposition inside of the team fight. I think that's very important. Last thing about this item, performs on a bell curve. So it is best with people that can press the active and in elo where dashing is OP. So this, sorry, I know my cam's covering some of it. This is like platinum and emerald. In silver, people don't press the fucking button, dude. So don't build the item. You don't press it. Why do you want it? But in high elo, okay, you have Proto Belt. Well, here comes my Lee Sin. He don't give a fuck. He's going to ward hop into your face instead of pressing a max range Q because he's not dumb. Right? People will take the fact that you have Proto Belt. People will ping items in high elo. They know you have a Zhonyas. They know you have a Proto Belt, right? People can press active. Okay, I feel called out. But like, it's true, right? So it performs on a bell curve. This is good in like Plat Emerald. Okay. Now, this is also percent pen item, right? So it's complicated because you would never go this second. The enemy just doesn't have enough MR for it to be gold efficient, right? So like you want this item to get value by reducing the enemy's magic resist. If they don't have magic resist, what the fuck are you reducing? Okay? Period. Make sense? Like if they don't have magic resistance, you're not doing anything. Next, Crypt Bloom. Think about this as like good when you want CDR, don't care about one-shotting, in which case go Void, and are solo or only human AP player. Sometimes you are there might be multiple AP players on your team, but you're the only one who's human. In which case, just go Crypt Bloom because fuck your team. You don't need to empower them. Don't go Bloodletters because you don't need to empower them. Bloodletters, best in most games. Buffs your team, your AP team members' damage. Requires humans on your team. Don't build when solo. And then also this. All right, so those are your options, right? Now, if you were to build over here, your balanced build, right? Where you go a CDR item and then Shadow Flame, and then a CDR item, whichever one you didn't buy, or you go double CDR here, right? So you'll either buy, well, it should be worded like this, right? So here, so far, our build will be, let's say we're the most normal mage in the game. We go BFT, and then second item I go, okay, I need a CDR item, so I go Cosmic Drive. And my third item I go, okay, I want more CDR, and then I buy Crypt Bloom, right? But if you go double CDR, one of those two should probably be a percent pen item. Because we also said that you need to have a percent pen item in your build, right? And so if you're trying to get as much pen as fast as possible, you might as well just buy a Crypt Bloom. It's a bit more of a complicated explanation than this, but think about if you buy Horizon Focus, Cosmic Drive, Crypt Bloom, Actualizer, and you have 200 ability haste, and your spells are on a 1-second cooldown, that's awesome. But good luck being in range of an enemy enough to press your spells that often, right? So, like, chill a little bit and balance your build a little bit more, because you often don't want to overload on CDR that much. It can cause some pretty big problems, right? Okay, so we have those CDR items, we have our Rabadon's percent pen items, and then we have one last category that goes underneath here. And these are luxury items, right? And these are items that you build if you can afford it, right? What's up, Slatana? I'm autismoing out. So you only build these items if you can afford to do it. Usually this is late game or you need to be ahead. Why? The reason why is because if I was to buy some of these items early on in the game, I'm never killing someone. So these items include, first we have Malignance, then we have Zhonya's, then we have Banshee's Veil, then we have Malignance, Zhonya's, Banshee's Veil, Malignance, Zhonya's, Banshee's Veil. I'm also going to include Actualizer here. I'm missing one. Rabadon's. Right? So, you will always get a Rabadon's here. Rylai's. So this is typically only a thing you're going to do if it's a part of your core burn build, if you're a burn champion, right? So you can only build these items if you can afford to do it. Usually late game where you need to be ad. Malignance. Or sorry, not Malignance. What the fuck? Morello. All right, so starting with Morello. This is anti-heal, right? Buy this immediately. So you'll buy this item immediately, right? Never combine until your last item, right? But if you fall behind, you should not be the one who's buying the anti-heal item, okay? Because you're worthless. You're investing 800 gold into essentially an amp tome with added fluff. You cannot be the one to do this. This needs to be someone who has the gold, who's not going to die, who's actually useful, who can apply it. Zhonya's. Bro, stop building this shit early because it nukes your damage. You might be like, okay, I need Zhonya's on my champ. I promise you, if you're not playing Fizz or Silas or Lissandra, you do not need this shit. Okay? And even on champions like Lissandra or Fizz or Silas, they'll go this third or fourth. But they might go at third, right? That's one item earlier than most other people. I'll build it fourth or fifth most of the time, right? Like, you're not going to build this item very often. Good into dive comps, right? Or when can one-shot someone and buy time after. That's pretty much it. Banshees, good into champs that have one button that kills you. Briar R, Ash R. All right. It's less about the actual stats and more about the fact that they give you important passives. Verdant Barrier is the best component for mages outside Lost Chapter. Sometimes buy VB after third item and sit on it for a while. To that end, this is a strong defensive against pen builders and cheesers like Annie / Malzahar, right? So you can just buy a Verdant Barrier to neutralize their champion and not invest the full 3,000 gold. 39% of Fizz gets Zhonya's first or second. No other champ gets above 20%. People are buying Zhonya's first on Fizz. I mean, yeah, that's bad. Actualizer. Sleeper OP item. Gives you insane bursts. Can just buy this if you have core items plus Rab plus percent pen and don't need defensive items, right? And then Actualizer is just broken. Buy this 4th/5th every game after core when you don't need anti-heal / defensive. Almost always. You can almost always do this. Then Rylai's. Build this on 3/4 champs, period. You know who you are. If your champion builds Rylai's, typically that's part of your core, and you're just going to build Rylai's. Right? Okay. So, typically this is what we're doing. I'm making a mess. Okay. These are our items. I broke it down every single item now. Mana mages. We have 2 paths. 1, flat pen. 2, we go a balanced build that contains CDR and then flat pen, right? After core, itemize into your luxury items. Here are the key tips. Number 1, always get Rab. Typically 4th/5th when AP becomes high enough that this is OP. Right? If you buy it earlier at 3rd item, it's not giving you that much ability power. Zhonya's only good into 2 to 4 divers dash 1 assassin equals take exhaust or position better. If all they have is a Kiana, bro, just position better. You don't need a fucking Zhonya's to deal with one champion. You need a Zhonya's when their team comp is that threatening. You could ignore one champion. You can't ignore 5. Buy Oblivion only when you can actually afford it. Tell your teammates to. 4, make sure when you buy Oblivion / Bloodletters that you can actually apply it. Bruisers and assassins typically suck at applying these items, right? So they need teammates that are going to be able to buy it for them. Okay. So, typical build. Core items. Then you are going to go percent pen / Rab into the other one. So percent pen / Rab. And then after that, defensive / luxury item. So you'll have 3 items, a percent pen / Rab item, a percent pen / Rab item, and then a luxury item. That's your full build every single game. Boots. Okay. This will be easy. Sorks. What happened here? I did something wrong. I fucked it up. Boots. Number 1, Sorks. Number 2, Lucidities. Good with pen build and into squishies. Breakpoints. Bad from behind. Better from behind into squishy comps. Scale better. Strong default, but sadly, League is shit. So 60% of games are 5v5 with all squishies. So low key, these are rare. I don't know why. Okay. Empowered versions of boots. So notes on empowered versions, meaning the tier 3 upgrades, typically same conditions as the above, right? They change to become stronger versions of themselves. Even though Sork boots gain 8% magic pen, that you're still itemizing it to 18 magic pen, it doesn't suddenly make them better against tanks than buying upgraded lucidities. You'd still want upgraded lucidity against a tanky team comp. Just general, when to buy each and when in your build. Okay, I see. So, with the added consideration, tier 3 lucidities are the best tier 3 boots and need a nerf. They're fucking broken. Buy tier 3 boots, dude. Buy tier 3 lucidities. These are actually so OP. So unless you are like giga far ahead and you can one-shot everybody, bro, tier 3 lucidities are so fucking good. Like, I mean, someone's gonna get mad at me already, but for even using this word, Omega gold efficient. MS passive is insane. Cheap as fuck. Period. Just fucking broken. The haste is sick. It's insane. These are things I don't understand yet, right? Can you just buy a lost chapter on many mages into actualizer and be Thanos? Question mark? Can you do that? Can you just buy a lost chapter, combine it to an actualizer later, and just be Thanos? Is that a thing? I mean, maybe. I don't think it's a thing on Hwei because his mana costs are so high. But what is stopping a Syndra from just buying a lost chapter when the mana doesn't matter anymore, combine it to actualizer because actualizer gives less mana, and now you're Thanos? I don't know. Seems kind of good. All right, like kind of good. Omni boots, right? I think these suck, but like on bruisery mage assassins, good. 3 swiftness boots plus celerity. Popular on Syndra in high elo. Seems OP, but like lucidities do something similar with MS passive. So I don't know. This is actually a great point. Is this item good? Like, here's my issue, right? There is so much fucking propaganda. This is the most propagandized item in the entire game. People just, I mean, LS just talks about this item nonstop, bro. My issue with this is the stats are shit. And if you don't, like, if you rush it second, you don't one-shot anybody. Like, you don't have damage to kill squishies. So I'm kind of convinced, like, that this item is better later, and I personally don't build it. But yeah.